Today we're going to look at slope-intercept form, but before we move on to that, we're going to revisit one more question dealing with parallel and perpendicular lines. This question says that figure ABCD is a parallelogram. Is it a rectangle? Well, by definition, a rectangle is any four-sided figure that meets at 90-degree angles. And if one angle is 90 degrees, then the opposite angle must be 90 degrees, and so on. So what we actually want to prove here is that any two of these lines meet at a 90-degree angle. So I'm going to suggest that we look at line AB and line BC. And if we can prove that they meet at a 90-degree angle, then we have shown that this corner does indeed belong to the rectangle. So if we look at AB, we know that the slope is rise over run. So I'm just going to get rid of BC for a second. If we make a triangle here, we can make one little line down and we make a line going up, and we can see that the rise, I indeed have to go down 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. So 3, 4. So I have to go down 4 spaces and to the right 1. So that gives me a slope of -4 over 1 for line for line AB. So if I get rid of that for a second and I move on to line BC, I can make my triangle and I can see that to go from B to C, if I'm going to do the rise over the run, I have to go, from my rise, I have to go up 2, 1, 2, and for my run, I have to go to the right 8 spaces, which gives me a reduced fraction of 1 over 4. So if I look, line AB has a slope of -4 over 1, line BC has a slope of 1 over 4, and these are negative reciprocals of each other, which means that the lines are perpendicular, therefore they meet at a 90-degree angle. Moving on to slope-intercept form, we need to remember that the equation of any linear function is written as y equals mx plus b. That's something you have to remember. It's not given to you. Well, what does this mean? Well, m represents the slope number, and b represents the y-intercept. So if I were to read this question, it says the graph of a linear function has a slope of -7 over 3 and a y-intercept of 5. Write an equation for this function. Well, it tells me right here that my slope is -7 over 3. So in the m position, I'm going to write -7 over 3 x. And then it says I have a y-intercept of 5. And because that's a positive 5, I write plus 5, and I'm done. That is my equation. Now I could be asked to graph a linear function, such as this one, y equals -3 over 4x plus 2. Well, before I graph, I need to figure out what the numbers mean. So if I look at my slope, which is my m number, that's the number in front of the x, which is right here. So that's -3 over 4. And if I look at my b, which is my y-intercept number, that is a 2. So I've deciphered what the numbers mean. Now I need to put a scale on my graph. So 2, 4, 6, -2, -4, -6, 2, 4, 6, and same thing going this way. So you always start with your y-intercept, which in this case is a 2. So where you see a 2 on the y-axis, you're going to put a dot. Now I'm going to use my slope, which is -3 over 4. And remember that this is rise over run. So I have to go from the point 2, I have to go down 3, 1, 2, 3, and then to the right 4, because that's my run number. 1, 2, 3, 4. And where I leave off, I'm going to put a dot there. And using a ruler, I'm going to connect these two dots. So you always start with your y-intercept and then you use your slope to find the other point and connect the 2 points with a line. And that's how you graph using slope-intercept form. Alternatively, I could give you a graph and ask you to write the equation. Well, you do the exact same thing. You start with the y-intercept, which is right here, minus 4. So if we write down what it's supposed to look like, y equals mx plus b, I can fill in right now that my slope is a minus 4. Sorry, my y-intercept, should be a minus 4. Now if I pick any other discernible points, I'm going to pick this one up here. I'm going to draw a triangle. And remember that slope is rise over run. So my rise is going down 1, 2, 3, so negative 3. My run is going to the right, 1, 2. So my slope is negative 3 over 2, and then I can fill in the rest of the equation with what I had. So y equals negative 3 over 2x minus 4. The last thing that you could be asked to do is to answer a question, and you have to be able to remember our work in grade 9. So we have to remember that when we are writing an equation in a word problem, the b value represents your initial or your starting rate. And your m represents your slope. In a word problem, it represents your per or your each. So if we read this question, to join a local gym, Susan pays a startup fee of $99 plus a monthly fee of $29. Write an equation to represent. So the cost is going to equal, well, my startup fee is $99. That's how much it costs just to join the gym. So that's my initial rate. So B is $99. Plus, I have a monthly fee of $29, which means each month I have to pay an extra $29. So the equation that represents this scenario is C equals 29n plus 99. Well, using that equation, we'll have to answer some questions. So, for instance, suppose Susan went to the gym for 23 months. What is the total cost? Well, if I write down the equation that I just came up with, 29 months, that is my n. So I'm going to substitute the number 23 wherever I see an n, and I'm going to work it out. Well, I must multiply first. 29 times 23 is 667 plus the 99. So the cost is going to be $766. So you write a sentence. The total cost is $766 for 23 months. I could also be given the question, what if the total cost is $505? How many months did she go to the gym for? Well, you always start by writing down the equation that you came up with. In this case, I'm told the cost is $505. So I'm going to put that in the cost position. And this time I have to solve for n. So I'm going to subtract 99 from both sides. That's going to give me 406. There should be an equal sign. My 99s are gone. And now I'm going to divide both sides by 29. 29 divided by 29 is 1, and 406 divided by 29 is 14. So how many months is it going to take to have a total cost of $505? It will take 14 months. So you write a sentence for that. It will take 14 months. And the last question says, is it possible to have a total cost of exactly $600? Well, let's check. If we use our equation one more time, put 600 in for cost, and we are going to isolate the variable. So first we're going to subtract 99 from both sides. That's going to leave us with 501. And this is going to leave us with 29n because they cancel. divide both sides by 29, and that will leave us with 5 6/100 repeating for n. So can you have exactly $600? Well, if you go for 5 months and a little bit, but we can't pay the little bits. We have to pay per month. So that means that no, we won't ever have exactly $600 bill.